The terminal hummed with the usual chaos of travelers rushing to make their flights. Rolling suitcases clattered across polished floors. Announcements echoed overhead. Children whined. Adults argued with gate agents. Through it all, Officer Marcus Chen moved with steady purpose, his hand resting lightly on the leash of his partner. Coda stopped. The 4-year-old German shepherd's ears swiveled forward, his entire body going rigid. His nostrils flared as he sampled the air, filtering through thousands of scent molecules to isolate the one that had triggered his alert. Marcus followed his partner's gaze across the security checkpoint area. A family of 3 stood in line. A man in his 40s with a salt and pepper beard. A woman wearing designer sunglasses despite being indoors. Between them, a small girl clutched a worn, stuffed rabbit, her knuckles white against the faded pink fur. Nothing looked unusual at first glance. Just another family heading home from vacation. But Coda had learned to trust what humans could not see. The chemistry of fear has a scent. Stress leaves invisible trails in the air. And the German shepherd's 220 million scent receptors had detected something that made every instinct in his body scream wrong. Marcus watched his partner carefully. 3 years together had taught him to read every subtle shift in the dog's behavior. The way Coda's tail held perfectly still, how his weight shifted slightly forward onto his front paws. The intensity of his focus. This was not a casual interest. Marcus had spent 8 years with the airport police division and the last 3 with Coda at his side. He had learned that his partner was rarely wrong. When Coda alerted, there was always a reason. The girl looked up at the woman beside her. Her mouth moved, forming words Marcus could not hear over the terminal noise. The woman did not look down. Did not acknowledge the child at all. She kept her gaze fixed straight ahead, her jaw tight, her free hand gripping a leather purse like a weapon. The man leaned down, his lips close to the girl's ear. Whatever he said made her flinch, made her grip the stuffed rabbit tighter, made her eyes drop immediately to the floor. Coda took 3 steps forward, pulling against his leash with controlled urgency. He had not barked, had not whined. His training kept him silent. But everything about his body language screamed at Marcus to pay attention. The girl's clothes did not match. A pink sweater that hung too loose on her thin shoulders, black leggings that bunched at her ankles, sneakers that looked at least 2 sizes too big, the outfit of a child dressed in borrowed clothes, or clothes grabbed in a hurry. The man carried a single backpack. The woman had her purse. No rolling suitcases, no carry-ons beyond what they wore on their backs. For a family supposedly traveling, they traveled light. Too light. Marcus moved closer, keeping his distance but angling for a better view. Coda walked beside him, every muscle coiled with tension. The dog's training had been extensive, 12 weeks at Lackland Air Force Base learning to detect explosive odors. Another 8 weeks of specialized training in behavioral detection. But this was different from any training scenario they had run. The girl turned her head, scanning the terminal as if searching for something. Or someone. Her gaze swept past security personnel, past the other travelers, past the bright departure boards overhead. Then she saw Coda, her eyes locked onto the German shepherd. For just a moment, something flickered across her small face. Recognition. Hope. Her lips parted, the man's hand clamped down on her shoulder, hard. His fingers dug into the pink sweater. The girl's mouth snapped shut, but her eyes stayed on Coda, wide, pleading, desperate. Then she did something that made Marcus's blood run cold. The girl raised her free hand, the one not clutching the rabbit, and pressed her finger to her lips. The universal signal for silence, for help that could not be spoken aloud. Then she pointed at the man and woman beside her with one small, trembling finger. Coda lunged forward with such force that Marcus nearly lost his grip on the leash. The German Shepherd had never reacted this way before. Not during training, not during any of their shifts together. His entire body vibrated with barely contained energy, every instinct demanding action. Marcus keyed his radio. His voice stayed calm despite his racing pulse. Professional. "This is K9 Unit 7. I need backup at Security Checkpoint Delta. Possible suspicious activity." The response crackled back immediately. "Copy that, 7. Backup en route. What's the nature?" Marcus watched the family inch forward in line. 2 more people, and they would pass through the metal detectors, would disappear into the secure area, would board a plane. "I'm not sure yet," Marcus said quietly, "but my partner's alerting hard." The dispatcher knew what that meant. In 3 years, Coda had never given a false alert. His record was perfect. If the German Shepherd said something was wrong, something was wrong. "Understood. Officers inbound." The family reached the front of the line. A TSA agent waved them forward. The man stepped through the metal detector first, moving with casual confidence. The woman followed, her sunglasses still firmly in place. Then the girl hesitated. She looked back over her shoulder, found Coda again in the crowd. Her eyes begged, pleaded, screamed everything her voice could not say. Coda barked, sharp, urgent, breaking his trained silence with a sound that cut through the terminal noise like a gunshot. Every head turned. TSA agents looked up from their screens. Travelers stopped mid-stride. Security personnel reached for their radios. The man grabbed the girl's arm and yanked her through the metal detector. The machine did not beep. They were clean. Nothing metal. Nothing dangerous according to the sensors. But Coda knew better. Marcus made his decision. "Stop that family. The one with the small child. Pink sweater, black leggings." He saw the TSA supervisor's head snap up, saw her move to intercept, saw the man's expression shift from calm to predatory in a heartbeat. The woman moved first. She grabbed the girl's other arm, and they started to run. Not toward their gate, toward the emergency exit, toward escape. Marcus released Coda's leash. "Track!" The German Shepherd exploded forward. His powerful hindquarters propelled him across the polished floor with the speed and grace of a trained athlete. He closed the distance in seconds, not going for the adults, going for the child. The girl stumbled as the woman dragged her forward. Her stuffed rabbit fell from her grip, tumbling across the floor. She cried out, reaching for it, but the woman did not slow. Coda reached the rabbit first. He grabbed it gently in his jaws and planted himself between the fleeing adults and the emergency exit. His body blocked their path. His eyes locked on theirs. His teeth, still closed around the stuffed toy, were the only warning they needed. The man skidded to a stop, raised his hands, tried to look reasonable. "What's going on? We're just trying to catch our flight." Marcus arrived with 4 other officers right behind him. They spread out, surrounding the family, cutting off any escape. "I need to see identification," Marcus said calmly. "For all 3 of you." The woman's hand tightened on the girl's arm. The child whimpered but made no sound beyond that small noise of pain. Marcus knelt to the girl's eye level, keeping his voice gentle. Coda moved to his side, still holding the rabbit, his body a warm wall of protection between the child and the adults. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl's eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled. She glanced up at the man and woman, terror written across every feature. The woman spoke quickly. Too quickly. "Her name is Amy. She's our daughter. This is ridiculous. We have a flight to catch." "Then showing me identification should be simple," Marcus said. He kept his eyes on the child, watched how she leaned imperceptibly away from the woman, how she took the smallest step toward Coda. The man pulled out a wallet, handed over a driver's license. Marcus glanced at it. Daniel Rodriguez, 43 years old, Los Angeles address. And for her? Marcus indicated the woman. She fumbled with her purse, her hands shaking now, pulled out a California license. Patricia Rodriguez, 40 years old, same Los Angeles address. And do you have anything with your daughter's information? Birth certificate? Medical records? Who travels with a birth certificate? Patricia's voice pitched higher. This is harassment. Marcus stood, pulled out his phone, sent the names and details to dispatch for a background check. Then he looked at the girl again. Honey, what did you want to tell that dog? The girl's tears spilled over. She shook her head frantically. The man's jaw clenched. His hand moved toward the child. Coda growled. Low. Dangerous. The first time Marcus had ever heard that sound from his partner. The man froze. Marcus's radio crackled. The dispatcher's voice came through tight with urgency. 7. We have a hit. Amber Alert issued 3 days ago. 6-year-old Emma Martinez, abducted from a shopping mall in Phoenix. Suspect descriptions match your detainees. Everything clicked into place. The mismatched clothes, the lack of luggage, the false names, the child's terror. Marcus keyed his radio. Detain both adults. We have an abducted child. The officers moved in immediately. Daniel lunged for the girl, desperation replacing his earlier calm. Coda was faster. The German shepherd dropped the stuffed rabbit and positioned himself between Emma and her kidnapper. His teeth bared now, no longer silent, no longer subtle. Patricia tried to run. 2 officers tackled her before she made it 5 steps. Her sunglasses flew off, skittering across the floor. Without them, Marcus could see her eyes. Wild, guilty, trapped. Daniel swung at the officer reaching for him, connected with the man's jaw. Another officer grabbed his arm and twisted it behind his back. Within seconds, both kidnappers were on the ground, hands cuffed behind them, rights being read while travelers stood frozen in place. Emma collapsed. Her legs simply gave out. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor and lifted her gently into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. This girl who should have weighed at least 45 pounds felt more like 30. Coda retrieved the stuffed rabbit and sat beside them. His tail wagged now. Gentle, reassuring. He placed the toy in Emma's lap and pressed his massive head against her leg. Emma threw her arms around Coda's neck and sobbed. The German shepherd held perfectly still, letting her bury her face in his thick fur, absorbing her terror and grief and relief in equal measure. Marcus sank to the floor with them. Let Emma cry, let Coda comfort. Around them, the terminal gradually returned to life. But here, in this small bubble of safety, time stood still. Emma's words came out broken between sobs. They said they would hurt my mommy if I screamed. They said nobody would believe me. They said I had to be quiet. You were so brave, Marcus told her softly. You found a way to ask for help without making a sound. The doggy understood, Emma whispered. She pulled back enough to look at Coda, her small hand stroking his fur. He saw me. He knew. Coda's tail thumped against the floor. His tongue lolled out in what Marcus had learned to recognize as his happy expression. The expression that said, "Mission accomplished." More officers arrived. Child Protective Services was already en route. The FBI had been notified, as had the Phoenix Police Department, where Emma's parents waited in an agony of hope and fear. Marcus stayed with Emma. Coda pressed against her side. Together they formed a shield against the chaos, against the nightmare she had endured. A TSA agent brought Emma a bottle of water and a granola bar. She drank greedily, ate like she had not seen food in days, which Marcus suspected might be close to truth. The supervisor who had helped with the apprehension approached Marcus. How did you know? Marcus looked at Coda. The German shepherd had his head resting on Emma's lap now, his eyes half closed in contentment. I didn't. He did. But how? What did he smell? Fear, Marcus said simply. Stress. Cortisol levels spike when people are terrified. It changes their body chemistry, creates odors we cannot detect. But he can. He smelled Emma's terror, and he knew something was wrong. The supervisor shook her head in wonder. I've worked security for 15 years. Never would have given that family a second look. That's the point, Marcus said. Traffickers count on blending in, looking normal, but they cannot fake chemistry, cannot hide what fear does to the body, and they cannot fool a dog trained to detect it. The medical examiner arrived with a female officer from the Special Victims Unit. Emma would need to be examined, checked for injuries. Evidence would need to be collected. The full machinery of justice was grinding into motion, but first, Marcus had a promise to keep. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number dispatch had sent him. It rang twice before a woman answered. Her voice was raw from crying. Hello? Mrs. Martinez? This is Officer Marcus Chen with the Denver Airport Police. I am calling about your daughter Emma. The scream on the other end could have shattered glass. Followed immediately by a man's voice demanding to know what was happening. Marcus heard the phone being grabbed, heard Emma's father shouting questions. Mr. and Mrs. Martinez, Marcus said clearly. Emma is safe. We have her. She is unharmed. The suspects are in custody. The sounds that followed were beyond description. Joy and grief and relief all tangled into incoherent noise. Marcus waited patiently. Let them process. Let them believe what their minds could barely accept. Finally, Emma's mother managed to speak. Is she really okay? Can I talk to her? Can we see her? Marcus looked at Emma. She had heard her parents' voices even through the phone. Her eyes were wide, hopeful, barely daring to believe. He held the phone out to her. Someone wants to say hello. Emma grabbed the phone with both hands. Mommy? The wail on the other end would haunt Marcus for the rest of his career. The sound of a mother who had thought her child was lost forever, hearing that small voice say her name. Baby, oh baby, we're coming. We're coming right now. Mommy and Daddy are coming to get you. Emma nodded even though her mother could not see. Tears streamed down her face. But these were different tears. Healing tears. Hope tears. The doggy saved me, Emma said. The big doggy understood. Marcus heard Emma's mother sob. Heard her father asking what doggy. Heard Emma try to explain through her tears about the silent signal and the German shepherd who had known. The FBI agents took over, explaining procedure, promising transport, making arrangements to reunite Emma with her parents as quickly as possible. But first, medical clearance, evidence collection, official statements. Marcus carried Emma to the medical unit. Coda walked beside them, his leash dragging on the floor, his attention entirely on the small girl. When they reached the examination room, Emma refused to let go of Coda. He stays, she said firmly, the first complete sentence she had spoken without tears. He has to stay with me. Marcus looked at the doctor. The doctor looked at Emma. Then at the German shepherd, sitting with perfect patience beside the girl who had claimed him as her protector. He stays, the doctor agreed. The examination was gentle, professional. The doctor found bruising on Emma's arms where the kidnappers had gripped her, rope burns on her wrists, signs of dehydration and malnutrition, but nothing that would not heal, nothing permanent. Physical wounds would mend. The deeper scars would take longer. But Emma was alive. She was found. She would go home. 2 hours later, Marcus stood in the airport's VIP lounge, the one usually reserved for celebrities and dignitaries. Today, it hosted a reunion that made hardened police officers wipe their eyes. Emma's parents burst through the door. Her mother collapsed to her knees. Her father was right behind. Emma flew into their arms with a cry that held 3 days of nightmares and a lifetime of love. They held her, rocked her, whispered her name over and over like a prayer of thanksgiving, examined every inch of her with their eyes and hands, needing to confirm she was real. She was whole. She was theirs again. Marcus stood back, gave them space, gave them time. Beside him, Coda sat at attention, his tail wagging with satisfaction. Eventually, Emma's mother looked up, found Marcus across the room. She disentangled herself from her daughter and walked toward him on shaking legs. "Thank you," she said. Then she threw her arms around him and cried on his shoulder. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." Marcus hugged her back. "I did not find her. He did." He gestured to Coda. Emma's mother pulled back, looked at the German shepherd. Then she knelt in front of him and buried her face in his fur, just as Emma had done. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing her, for knowing, for saving my baby." Coda licked her cheek, gentle, understanding, accepting the gratitude he could not fully comprehend, but that his heart somehow recognized. Emma's father joined them. He shook Marcus's hand. His grip was crushing, desperate, grateful. "How can we ever repay you?" "Teach her that it's okay to make noise," Marcus said quietly. "Teach her that silent signals are brave, but screaming for help is braver. Teach her that the world still has good people in it, people who will listen, people who will believe." Emma's father nodded. His eyes were red. His face was haggard, but hope had returned to both. Emma came over, still clutching her stuffed rabbit. She looked up at Marcus. "Is Coda your dog?" "He's my partner," Marcus said. "Can I hug him goodbye?" "He would like that very much." Emma wrapped her arms around Coda's neck one more time, whispered something in his ear that Marcus did not quite catch. The German shepherd's tail wagged harder. When Emma pulled back, she reached into her pocket, pulled out something small, a hair bow, pink with white polka dots. She tied it carefully around Coda's collar. "So he remembers me?" she said softly. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "He will never forget you." The family left together, reunited, whole. As they walked toward the exit, Emma looked back one more time. She waved at Coda. The German shepherd stood at attention and barked once, sharp, clear, victorious. Marcus waited until they disappeared from sight before he sat down hard on the nearest chair. The adrenaline was finally draining from his system. 3 hours ago, he had been starting a routine shift. Now, 2 kidnappers were in custody. A missing child was found. A family was whole again. And his partner had somehow known, had detected what no technology could reveal, had trusted his training and his instincts and his nose to understand what a terrified child could not say aloud. Marcus looked down at Coda, at the pink hair bow now adorning his collar among the badges and tags, at the German shepherd who had just saved a life without ever raising his voice. "Good boy," Marcus said softly. Good boy." Coda wagged his tail and leaned against Marcus's leg. His work here was done. But tomorrow, there would be another shift, another terminal, another chance to use his incredible gifts to find the danger humans could not see. The news coverage started that evening. The story of the airport K9, who detected a kidnapped child through scent alone, who responded to a silent signal from a girl too frightened to scream, who became a wall of protection between innocence and evil. The mayor held a ceremony the following week, gave Coda a commendation medal, gave Marcus a handshake and a promotion offer he politely declined. He did not want a desk job. He wanted to keep working with Coda, keep trusting that incredible nose, keep finding people who needed help. Emma sent a card a month later. Inside was a drawing of a girl holding hands with a German shepherd. The dog wore a pink hair bow. The girl was smiling. At the bottom, in careful 6-year-old handwriting, "Thank you for listening when I couldn't talk. Love, Emma." Marcus framed it, hung it in his locker where he would see it every shift, a reminder of why this work mattered, of what was possible when humans learned to trust what they could not see or hear or understand, but what a dog could detect without question. Coda grew older, worked 6 more years before arthritis in his hips forced his retirement. Marcus took him home, made him a bed by the fireplace, fed him premium food and gave him toys and let him sleep on the couch whenever he wanted. But Coda kept the pink hair bow, worn now, faded from years of wear, but still tied around his collar, still reminding him of the girl who had trusted him, who had made a signal no human understood, but that his heart had known. On quiet evenings, Marcus would sit with Coda by the fire, would run his hand over the soft fur, would remember that day in the terminal when everything changed. "You're a good boy," Marcus would say, "the best boy." And Coda, old now and slow but still sharp in the ways that mattered, would thump his tail against the floor. Because he understood. Not the words, perhaps, but the meaning behind them. He had done what he was trained to do, what every fiber of his being was designed to accomplish. He had found danger, had protected the vulnerable, had saved a life, and in doing so, he had proved what handlers had known for decades, what science was only beginning to understand, what Emma had recognized in a moment of desperation. Sometimes, the most important signals are the ones no one else can hear, and the bravest voices are the ones that speak without sound. But a good dog will always listen, will always know, will always answer when help is needed, even when that help comes in the form of a little girl pressing her finger to her lips and pointing with trembling hope at the German shepherd who saw her when no one else could. Emma grew up, graduated high school with honors, went to college to study criminal justice, specialized in victim advocacy, devoted her life to helping other children who could not speak for themselves. And every year, on the anniversary of the day she was rescued, she visited Marcus and Coda, brought flowers, brought gratitude, brought love. The last time she came, Coda was 13, gray around his muzzle, moving slowly, but his eyes still sharp, his tail still wagging when Emma walked through the door. She knelt beside him like she had all those years ago in the terminal, wrapped her arms around his neck, pressed her face into his fur. "Thank you," she whispered. Same words, different voice, woman instead of child, but the gratitude was eternal. "Thank you for listening when I had no voice. Thank you for being brave when I could not be. Thank you for knowing." Coda leaned into her embrace. His tail thumped the floor, and if dogs could smile, Marcus swore his partner was smiling then. Because in the end, that was what mattered. Not the medals or the commendations or the news coverage or the promotions, but this. The knowledge that when it counted most, when a child's life hung in the balance, when every second mattered, one German shepherd had known what to do, had trusted his training, had trusted his instincts, had trusted the invisible chemistry of fear and stress and terror that only his nose could detect, and in doing so, had brought Emma Martinez home. The sun set outside Marcus's window. Golden light spilled across the floor. Coda slept by the fire, his head resting on a cushion, the faded pink hair bow still tied to his collar. Emma sat beside him, one hand stroking his gray fur, her other hand holding the stuffed rabbit she had never let go of that day. The rabbit Coda had saved along with her. And Marcus, watching them both, thought about partnership, about trust, about the incredible bond between human and dog that transcended language and species and understanding. Thought about how sometimes, the most heroic acts come from the quietest places. How courage does not always roar. How help can arrive on 4 paws and answer signals that exist only in the chemistry of fear. Thought about a little girl who had known when to stay silent, and a German shepherd who had known when to listen. And he understood, perhaps for the first time, why this work mattered so much, why canine units existed, why dogs like Coda spent their lives learning to detect what humans could not sense. Because somewhere, in airports and bus stations and shopping malls and streets, there were other Emmas, other children sending silent signals, other victims too frightened to scream, and they needed dogs like Coda, dogs who could smell fear and stress and cortisol spikes, dogs who could see past the masks kidnappers wore, dogs who understood that the chemistry of terror left traces in the air that technology could not measure, but that 220 million scent receptors could detect without fail. Emma stayed until sunset. Then she kissed Coda's head, hugged Marcus, promised to return soon. At the door, she turned back one last time. "Does he know?" she asked. "Does he know what he did for me?" Marcus looked at his partner, at the old German shepherd sleeping peacefully by the fire, at the warrior who had saved lives with nothing but his nose and his courage and his unshakable trust in his training. "Yes," Marcus said, "he knows." And in his sleep, Coda's tail wagged once, slow, satisfied, content, because he had done his job, had answered the call, had listened when it mattered most. And somewhere, in the complex chemistry of canine understanding, in the bonds that form between species, in the ways that dogs know things humans never can, Coda understood what he had done, had known it from the moment Emma pressed her finger to her lips, from the moment she pointed with desperate hope, from the moment their eyes met across that crowded terminal. He had known she needed help, and he had answered. Silent signal. Quiet hero. Good boy. The best boy. Forever and always. The very best boy.